Welcome back to the Amazon European Masters. My name's Scoundrel, joined by Foxtrot. We're changing over, tagging out halfway through. We've got 3 more games coming your way tonight. But first of all, I've got to get my fanboying out the way, Bias Caster and all that. Really happy to see Fnatic Rising do well on their first game. I think they had a disastrous spring European Masters, and to come in and swing hard against the Dark First seed is actually a really big deal for them. So good to see the NLC getting represented well. And there we go, shutting off Bias Caster, Foxy.
For now. For now, yeah, until we get Carson at your NLC team, then it will come back on. But for now, yeah, good job, Fnatic. But it's not about the NLC here. It's not about Fnatic. We've got a pretty good matchup here. Illumina versus Zero Tenacity. The Balkan Bros always hyping them up every single E-Masters, but we're just waiting for them to do it. We're just waiting for them to do it. Haven't quite been able to just yet.
Since 2018, actually, 2018 was the year for Balkans, and then every year since that has kind of seen them kind of move back into the shadows a little bit of the rest of the regions in that European Masters group stages. But, you know, they definitely have surprises. This is a roster that I would say is relatively solid. They have the likes of Mummus in the top lane, who has had a lot of competitive experience across leagues like the NLC, had a little stint in Brazil as well. So, you know, got a lot of competitive experience on this team, but they are going against Illumina. And yes, Poland have had a rough couple of European Masters. The last one was not one I think they're going to want to talk about for some time, but it is still the Polish region. It is still the Ultraliga. We know how strong they are. Illumina 3-0'd Ago Rogue in the Ultraliga semi-finals, and then went on to a very close series versus PDW at the end of the Ultraliga 3-2. So this is a team that I do think in this matchup, Foxy comes in expected to win.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was this time last year when Rogue won it all, when they just took it all home, and it was beautiful stuff. And then pretty much the entire roster got picked up into the LEC. So it can be a little bit hard to keep your dominance and your strength as a region when all your talent is just too good. You're literally a victim of your own success. You keep getting picked up into LEC. And Illumina, yeah, this was a team that was in like literally the very first E-Masters, quite literally in 2018, when that Super Team Origin against them in the finals, it was like Froggen and Insec and Forgiven and all those names.
I can't believe we had Insec in the European Masters, mate.
I know,
it was Forgiven, Jezzes, I think, Froggen, Insec, and who the hell was the top laner?
Expect was their top laner, yeah.
What a ridiculous European Masters team, by the way. That was absolutely nutty. But Illumina actually had a solid series versus them in the finals. So yeah, you're right. This is an organization that's got a ridiculous amount of history in this tournament, and they'll be wanting to get off on the right foot here. Ziggs getting banned away. A lot of people actually favoring that Ziggs ban recently. He's pretty obnoxious to play against. Nidalee off the board too. I expect we'll see a decent amount of Nidalee bans, because there are, as you saw in the last game, there are quite a lot of like junglers that favor Nidalee as that kind of a pocket pick champion for themselves.
Absolutely. Nidalee is just one of those champions. It's kind of like, there's a bit like Elise whenever she's in meta. If there's a good jungler on EU, he plays Elise. He plays Nidalee. He plays Lee Sin. You know, it's just how it is. And yeah, so I would expect Lee Sin. I mean, it's a high priority champion in the meta right now anyway, but very good, especially in the hands of Chris. It's his most played champion. Wouldn't be surprised to see that one taken away, but it is going to be Nidalee to start things off. And our first bot lane ban here, it's going to be the Ez.
Seen a lot of Ezreal today, and the damage output he's got is pretty nutty. A lot of people going towards that Divine Sunder at Ezreal again. Set being taken off the board. That's a Mummus special as well, but it has that flexibility. So Set is being banned away. Jace taken away too. Another pick that Mummus does like to run in the top lane. So kind of already targeting one of the stronger players on that Zero Tenacity roster. And that will be Mummus now having some of that champion pool restricted.
So the interesting thing about Mihai is he does play a lot of mages in that bot lane. All right, you know what? Let's stop talking about that, because we've got an insta slap down lock on the Camille. Now this is the most played champion from the queue. The interesting thing though about the way that Illumina play in general is they don't tend to be particularly top focused. And Camille is a champion that you can definitely play around. So we'll see whether Illumina actually decide to kind of alternate it a little bit here with their strategy. Be like, you know what, let's go top side. We can play with that. Get some good ganks going. Get a good jungler here to match up into that Renekton as well. Because you definitely can, especially in the days now where Camille takes Ignite. You can definitely put the pain onto Renekton.
Yeah, I think also, as you said, it's also a pick that Mumus likes to play, so it's a double whammy effect of it's one of Lecu's one of his most picked champions, but also denying Mumus. But look at this, we've got a 1-2 of Renekton Irelia. Pretty certain it's Irelia mid, but you do sometimes get that flexibility between them. Mumus, I know, loves the Renekton, so that's something that we're expecting to see. Lots of strong picks up, including the Varus, including the Viego. They could be the next rotation here for Illumina.
Right, and the thing for Z10 here as well, if you've got these two Solines slapped down, you're gonna pretty much have to pick your AP jungler. That would be the general kind of consensus here. This would be the next step. Having said that, like I was mentioning before, Mihai plays a lot of AP bot laners, so this isn't something where necessarily you look at this draft and think, ooh, what's Z10 doing here? They kind of pinch themselves into a pretty physical, heavy damage team comp. Now, this team can pull a lot out of the bag, and yeah, we'll have to see how this draft develops from that front.
We're going to see a Tristana locked in here. You know, most of those do gravitate towards the bot lane, but obviously there is still that possibility of a Tristana mid from time to time. And now we're going to see that final Zero Tenacity pick on the red side here, red 3. Let's see what they choose to lock in, and it is Gragas. Okay, so that is an interesting draft. You know, one is assuming that has that flexibility between jungle and bot lane here. We have seen some Gragas tops, but I don't think it fits into this draft right now, given what we've already seen. So it could be a Ryuzaki Gragas jungle, but obviously also could be Watch just playing that in the bot lane.
Yeah, absolutely. That is it's a nice flex pick here, and then Illumina are gonna have to decide. Okay, do we ban away junglers here, or are we just gonna assume that Gragas is going in the jungle? For me right now, like, I think you just want to start pinching bot even more, because, you know, you've already got you've got Ziggs taken away, you've got Ez taken away, you've picked the Tristana if you do want to put that down bot side, and Mihai, especially if you want to like focus his kind of like specific champion pool. It really depends how much prep Illumina have done, because again, a champion like Seraphine, you know, if you're going for these more like caster focused bot laners, you know, Seraphine fits that bill as well.
Banned, and Seraphine is something that actually Isaac has played in the mid lane a decent amount. We're going to see the Thresh and the Galio now being banned away, so lots of kind of like heavy engaged support options being limited right now for Illumina. We'll see what the final ban here is on the blue side for Illumina to round things out. Maybe another strong teamfight presence they just want to get rid of in this comp, as well as banning like solid AP threats as well, because again, you've already kind of shown your hand as like a heavy AD focus. Unless we see Mihai play something more mage orientated in the bot lane, it'll be the Rakan here, so an engaged support taken off the board as well.
So that would imply that Illumina are betting on this Gragas being in the jungle. Now, Wojtas hasn't played Gragas support, but Ryazaki's only played it once, so it's not exactly a champion that you can really just tell from the players where it's going to go. It could really be anywhere at this point. But it would seem like that is going to be into that jungle position. Gragas is seeing a little bit more popularity as a jungler. We saw Bwipo play in the LEC finals. It has some like mixed success, but the great thing about Gragas is that you can have a lot of early game pressure, which obviously pairs up really nicely with champions like Renekton and Irelia.
And we'll see how Illumina choose to round out their camp. What would you be looking for, like, overall, though? Like, if you had your perfect picks right now to kind of complement what you think Illumina are trying to do, like, how are you looking to spot? I mean, the Trundle comes through. That is getting locked in. So that could be Trundle support, I would imagine, here with the Viego. Obviously, we have seen Viego sometimes flex to lane, but it's not as popular these days. Do you think you need some kind of AP threat? And it is the most picked for ASIC across the entire Ultra Liga. The Orianna comes through.
Yeah, you're lacking a little bit of engage on the side of Illumina. Like, you've just got people jumping in, or maybe like a pillar or something like that to set up the fights, which can be a little bit risky, honestly. It's not the most ideal, especially when you've got a champion like Camille, like Tristana, who does want to jump forward, but they don't necessarily want to be the ones who are the first ones to jump forward, because that can be kind of risky. You know, you jump in, you can get blown up, and yeah, that's a bit difficult to do, especially against a Braum who just slaps down his ultimate and kind of ruins your day a little bit. It is going to be Ashe though in that bot side. So speaking of engage, maybe Illumina don't have a huge amount, but Z10, you know, with that Ashe arrow, with that Gragas cask, you know, you can just like throw everything forward and start whatever fight you want to pick out. And a pretty smart pickup here from the summoners, by the way, from Zamalek. He's chosen the cleanse against Braum Ashe. Yeah, I think that's pretty smart.
I like it. I think that makes a lot of sense, Foxy. However, you know, I think the way you can look at Illumina is that if I mean, the composition from Zero Tenacity is relatively straightforward, as you mentioned. They've got a lot of engage, lots of ways to facilitate that. And if you're Illumina, you probably know that's what they're looking for. You've actually got quite a lot of disengage, quite a lot of peel, and you do have the ability to play kind of more front to backs. If you can negate that first engage and you bait Zero Tenacity into the fight, like, you have a way to potentially turn that around. But I like you said, there isn't as much agency from Illumina Gaming. They are kind of waiting for Zero Tenacity to make the moves, or they are going to be like setting up on objectives and waiting for Zero Tenacity to kind of face check them and kind of make the engage happen for them, right?
I'm really looking towards the top side of this game with the way that the draft has played out. You know, Gragas, Renekton, pretty strong early game with those ganks, and obviously Renekton can really take over a lane if he does get ahead. There's no flash from the Camille that is going to be that ignite, gives her a lot more damage potential, but obviously she's more vulnerable without having flash. And just in general with the way that these two teams play, you know, Z10 with Mumus especially, like, he has a pretty high kill participation and like damage share as well as a top laner. Like, as far as tops go, he's up there. He's definitely up there. If there's a team that's going to be playing towards top side, it's probably Z10. And I do think that's, you know, with the way the draft has gone, that's how they're going to find success. And if you can shut that Camille down, it'd be really, really, really nice. And then Renekton, easy peasy lemon squeezy, takes over the game.
I was actually doing my research on Zero Tenacity because I didn't know a huge amount about them before coming into the European Masters, and they must be a nightmare to scout. If you're scouting Zero Tenacity, how many unique champions do you think Might has played this, or Mate has played this entire split in the EBL?
Okay, it's going to be a high number since you're pitching that. I'm going to say 9.
11 uniques.
What?
Mihai played 10 uniques.
Oh my god. Yeah.
Watch just played 8, Ryuzaki played 7, and Mumus played 8. They have got a ridiculous number of unique champions played on this roster, and scouting them must be an absolute nightmare because you're just never really sure what they're going to lock in. The only question I have here is for Zero Tenacity is they're kind of lacking AP. Like, Ryuzaki from the jungle maybe providing a little bit here, but you know, as a Gragas, you're not exactly churning out the consistent heavy AP damage that someone like an Orianna will. So that, especially going into a Trundle who's going to be quite beefy on the front line, might be something to worry about.
Yeah, absolutely. That's always something. Like, I'm a little bit critical of Gragas picks when they are the only AP threat. I don't think Gragas offers enough really just for magic damage by himself. But I do love what he can do early game. I honestly think that's kind of really the strength of Gragas. It's not necessarily that he's all about magic damage. That is something that, you know, it helps if you are full AD. But the fact that he can help his lanes get ahead early, if you are playing a team that's like really stacked on one type of damage, getting an early lead just negates that, really. Like, you won't have to worry about being full AD if you're just like 5k gold ahead in the early game. I think that's really where Z10's going to try and go from.
Yeah, they do have. I mean, Aurelia scales a lot better than she used to. She had that little mini rework that was supposed to help her scale better into the late game and kind of limit some more of her early all-in the lane. But the rest of the comp, like Ashe, decent. But you are, I guess, in terms of pure damage output, getting outscaled. But when it comes to the team fight mechanics, I think one of the things that has kind of evolved in the way that we analyze teams recently has been about, like, it's less about like how the pure damage scales. It's about how they actually play the game out, like as teams. And as we said before, the Zero Tenacity have all of the agency. Like, they have pretty much all of the agency here. Yes, okay, you can force things with the Camille, you can maybe force things with the Trundle Pillar, but you have much more agency on Zero Tenacity to find a fight. And if you're ahead, you can continue to do that, and you can continue to pressure and continue to find engages, which might be something that they are looking to do, like you said. Just get ahead early and keep the pressure on with the infinite number of engage tools that they really have in their favor.
Yeah, and I think this is the thing, right? When this Camille's basically your best engage for Illumina, you're going to have to wait for that TP flank to make something happen. And to be honest, I think when you have a Trundle, you can actually set up for flanks quite nicely. Like, I don't think Trundle is like a great go button in the same way that a lot of other champions are, like an Ashe or maybe like a Malphite or something like that. But if you put that pillar down, you know, and then you've got a TP flank on the way as well, it definitely buys you enough time to set that up. Speaking of setups, though, Luminar is going to go for this mid lane play. Both Charm and Chris are here. Might's in trouble.
Might has overextended just a little bit, has bopped that stun, but will have Ryuzaki to help him out. Body slam will just... Oh my goodness gracious. Charm went for it.
Flash is traded. I honestly think, though, for Illumina, that's probably a plus. I would like to take the Flash away from Gragas. We know how much playmaking you can get out of a Flash on that champion, right? Your Betty Bop, Flash in. There's really not much counterplay to that. So trading flashes for a Trundle, definitely going to take that one, especially since in that mid lane, you know, 010 was doing great. You know, Might was just absolutely just bodying Esjik here. Like, he had like a 10 CS lead at the point, just buying a bit of time there. But here's the Q in trouble. No flash from... It's going to get out of it.
Takes a bit of damage here, but as you said, that flash body slam is a really important engage tool. It's a really good way to force an issue or surprise someone in a gank, and now that's gone for Ryuzaki. This is like a little bit of a lull in the game where Illuminar can probably feel pretty comfortable being a bit more overextended in lane. That Isik has to push this wave in, and I think we'll get away with it. But as you said, he is massively behind in CS right now. I mean, Might is just absolutely taking over, and Illuminar struggling elsewhere. They aren't really doing that well in the top lane. They aren't really doing that well in the bot lane either. They haven't really had a hugely impactful laning phase thus far.
No, I think honestly it's kind of be expected. I wouldn't really think of Camille being able to do too much on Renekton early, and like Irelia is always a little bit of a pain to play against in lane as well. Honestly, with Irelia having to recall here though, he's got no potions, no TP. This could be a time to stabilize that mid lane. And you saw, like, as I was mentioning about having Gragas having flash being really important, you saw it literally like 20 seconds later. If he had flash in that top lane play, Lucu's dead. Straight up. He's just donezo. Like, you bop him mid hook shot, there's no way you can get out of that. You know, but unfortunately, he just walks away. And it really does take the tempo off this early game, because Renekton is someone you want to get hurt early. Camille will outscale him.
And is that the game plan then for Zero Ten? Like, are they keen to put the pressure on here? Because I just feel like mechanically, you know, in a team fight, especially as the game goes on, they're going to struggle versus just kind of the amount of disengage that the Illuminati gaming roster has. That is a very ballsy engage here from Lecu, but he does not mind. He's got the support of Chris behind him. Ryuzaki waiting in the wings though, and Chris might walk face first into this Gragas.
They see him on the scries though.
Oh yeah, they do.
The sweeper's getting him. This could be a 2. Ooh, Benaya Voices is here. 3v2.
3v2, they are going to catch him out here. Ryuzaki gets caught out in that Camille ultimate. Here comes Votus, he's there. And first blood over to Mummus. It'll be a reset for Chris. He'll flash across the wall, 1-for-1 overall, and Mike just there to try and help it out. Charm is here, there's the ultimate being popped. Mike looking for the engage, has got that exhaust on him for the time being. And here comes Eric with the shockwave, but it misses. And I think Chris will drop. Z10 off to a great start here, and now Orianna sacrificed as he's forced to flash over the wall. Not a great look here for Illuminar, and Z10 come out swinging.
Perfect roam timing right there from Voitus. He just got there like 10 seconds earlier. It wasn't much. It wasn't much. You saw Charm was roaming as well, but that little window, it was enough. They had no idea here, Illuminar, that Voitus was around. It looked a little bit hairy to start with, and you can see the both kills go down pretty much at the same time here. Ryuzaki dies at the same time as the Q, but it is technically the first blood over to Mummus. He's going to get that extra 100 gold. But again, you know, Might's been able to have that pressure in the mid lane, gets that roam down Charm just a little bit too late, and when Orianna does join the play, she can't have the same amount of impact. It's just too late. Completely whiffs on that shockwave. No impact going down there. Now Mummus is really happy with those 2 kills. Talks about getting him ahead early. Yeah, I think he'll take that.
Absolutely will. And I think it was a really lovely play setup from Z10 as well. They knew that Chris... I think they knew that Chris knew that Ryuzaki was there. That's why he was hanging around. They were trying to set up the play. It was obvious. And therefore, Voitus walks his way over and then forces it into a 3 versus 2. And Z10 now have a little edge. Look, I'm not going to get carried away here. It's not a huge gold lead, but it is a platform to potentially build a lead with, especially with that Rift Herald spawning, with that Dragon up.
Yes.
Maybe Z10 wants to start looking for these neutral objectives so they can start to force the issue a little better.
I'm so glad you said that. It's exactly that. You know, you've got the strength in the top side of the map if you're Z10. Mummus is big, and that means you can play around him, right? If you play around your strong lanes, which is just League of Legends 101, then because it's in top side, you get Herald. Herald for free. Beautiful stuff for this early point in the game. Pretty much any team in the world will trade first Rift Herald for first Dragon, and that's it. You know, even though the gold lead right now might not be anything too much to write home about, it's what you can get from this little advantage, which can then snowball a little bit out of control. If you get this Herald and you can slap that down, especially against the likes of an Orianna who's really good at wave clearing, suddenly now you have an opportunity to attack that. You know, just get the Herald. You can't wave clear a Herald. Or you can just decide to try and like mega bully the top side and play around with Mummus. Like, honestly, the options, the world is your oyster at this point if you're Z10.
You can see they are trying to mirror this. I mean, obviously, Illuminar, they know this is happening. Lecu has such a huge wave. Mummus has stacked a massive wave against this tier 1 top, and Lecu just can't get to it. He feels like he can't back because it's too much experience, but he just can't get to it right now because of the threat of the dive. However, with Mike being forced back towards that mid lane, a mid lane wave crashing in, Lecu is finally able to get back to his own tower.
Mummus has to be a little bit careful as well because Chris is walking up, and his friends have left him. but I don't think we'll see too much happening. It's just going to be sweeping out the vision. Nothing happening. Charms also made his way up, but not really a problem, honestly. So using that tempo from the push in bot side, Illumina roaming up to top, doesn't get anything out of it. And that's great. You know, that's a window that's now shut. Don't have to worry about that. Z10 get a clean reset, able to buy their items. All back into lane. You can see as well Voitus here. He's not running straight back down bot. You don't do that. You don't. How silly of you to try and think that you're playing bot side as a bot laner. No. You don't do that anymore. That's old meta. You play support, you're never in bot, you're perma roaming around, and let's see what you can get out of it.
You can see I say he has been more active on the map this game than Charm. I think Voitus has been much more kind of willing to move heavy distances across the map to support those plays, especially around Ryuzaki and Might on the top side. So he has kind of left Mihai to his own devices, but Mihai's played a very careful game. He's kind of backed off in the tower. He's sacrificed a little bit of CS. He's 15 down, but obviously he's going to get a little bit back on this wave. He's been careful with how he's been tracking a potential bot lane dive from Illumina, and that's kind of paid out for them because they've managed to get a pretty decent lead, especially for Mummus on the top side of the map. CS doesn't really reflect that, but just in terms of how Mummus has been able to play. And obviously Z10, they are putting a lot of stock on that top side of the map right now. Have that Rift Herald to work with. It'd be interesting to see what they do with it. Like, which lane do we think we're dropping that? Is that going to be a lane to create some natural priority? Sorry, is that going to be a drop to create some natural priority mid at the second dragon? Or are we going to see it used to try and break open some plates somewhere?
I think the important thing to notice about where you slap this Herald down is like Mummus doesn't have teleport, and you're not going to have TP advantage because LeQ's TP is about to come up. Xjit's TP just came up, pretty much as I cited that sentence. So you've got to be careful if you do make it like a dragon play around the Herald, because you're going to get collapsed on, and that's an issue. Unless Mummus can push out top and then roam down, then sure, maybe you can make something happen. So if you do want to pair up with Mummus here, you can try something. But this is like catch-22 in a way, where pretty much every single time I see a Renekton get ahead in lane, and then like you take the first tower, Renekton's strength, that being that kind of like lane bully, that 1v1 power, he loses that because the tower's down, and then he doesn't translate the lead across the map. I'm not saying Z10's necessarily going to fail to do that this game, but it's difficult. It's difficult to do it. It's difficult to translate Renekton across the map. So you're going to get a first tower blood race. I think, yeah, I mean, okay, never mind. Not much of a race at the end. Shelly doing what Shelly does.
I mean, they're trying to defend this as well. I mean, there's a potential tower dive on the cards. That is an incredibly low HP tower, but the Braum Shield's doing work. That is going to be an initial kill going over. Oh, he flashes out. Charm gets away, but it'll be Might that fights back. Could be a 1-for-1 overall. The Heartbreaker comes through. Chris is looking for his second kill. Will pick up that Braum now. Maybe looking for the stun. And that is going to be a jump from Zamulek. The rocket jump into the fight. Might trying to trade back here, but doesn't have the reset yet. And he will drop to Essig. A desperate defense goes wrong for Z10 on the bottom side of the map.
Yeah, but look what happens on the top side of the map. You've got the first blood tower, and you've got that second outer tower as well. Outer towers give a lot of gold nowadays. Really good stuff, honestly, as far as the response goes. But yeah, just maybe trying a bit too hard to defend. It does end up being a 4v. No. Yeah, obviously Z10 are a little bit outnumbered here because of what's happening top side. I really just think, you know, you leave that tower. It's like, okay, we're going to lose one tower here, but look what's happening top side. Bam, sorted. Good trade. As it turns out, though, 3 kills, really not ideal. Not ideal to give that one away if you're Z10. And Illumina, just a perfect response right there. And Eshik now is big. 201, yeah. 150 gold bounty.
He is pretty happy with that, given that he is basically the entire AP damage source for his team. And Orianna, one of those AP carries that can definitely do that on her own. And you don't really want to give too much gold over there, because those shockwaves, especially with a heavy melee lineup like this, those shockwaves can be really influential. Like, everybody is set up into a strong position for a good shockwave. It's not like you're expecting these fights to be split, because I think with Z10, you know, their game plan is really going to be set up Irelia, capitalize on that maybe with the Renekton and the Gragas. We're kind of barreling everyone in to kill one of these key targets, but if you're barreling all into the same space, it's exactly what Orianna wants. And if she's able to play that in position well, you know, that's solid.
Absolutely. Sorry to interrupt you with my shock of awe. But just seeing Zamulek that high up on the gold charts, it's pretty good for Illumina. Having someone to play around Zamulek, as far as it goes, you know, in the Ultra Liga. 80 carries, man, they tend to pop off. There's a lot of good Polish ADCs out there playing League of Legends, and Zamulek is one of them. He's by far the highest damage share of his team. He's one of the rare instances where someone has 30% or higher definitely means that this team relies on him to get those dubs, and the fact that he's second in gold after a pretty good start with that Kraken Slayer.
I mean, it's kind of what I think Z10 had to do. They sacrificed Mihai so heavily that he's very far behind. I don't know if we have a chance to look at the overall gold levels right now, but he is very far behind. You can see that about 1,000 gold, 1,400 gold even behind on Zamilek right now. So this is a pretty significant difference. They sacked bot pretty heavily. They're expecting Mihai to retain his utility with that Ashe ultimate to put some eggs in Mumus's basket on the top side. I'm not sure if it's paid off yet. They aren't catapulting in the lead, and Illumina have been able to trade back time and time again on that bot side. Yes, okay, second tier dropped in the tower at the top with that first Rift Herald push, but it is realistically just been kind of answered very easily by Illumina with that bot lane as well.
Absolutely. The thing is with Ashe as well, like, I don't really think that Z10 care too much about Ashe being behind. You know, as far as the champion goes, you pick her because she's got great engage, you know, and a little bit for laning as well, but she'll always be useful. You know, this Ashe could just have 0 items and she'd still provide use to her team, because you throw out that ulti, get that engage going down, and it's still decent stuff. And obviously Z10 have played a lot towards the top side. It's kind of to be expected. But yeah, we'll see as the game goes on, because Tristana is going to be a threat. You know, she does tend to have a bit of a lull in that mid game. And so at this point on, like, you might think that if Z10 can really leverage that Renekton, leverage that strength they've got in their solos, then they really could get a huge amount of like damage going through here, open up the map, get a lot of gold. But if Illumina can hold on, then they're in a pretty good spot.
When do you think Z10 want to fight? Like, that's kind of the question I have in my head. Like, Z10 obviously at some point kind of want to accelerate this game. Like, they're a little bit ahead. They're about 1,000 gold in the lead, but there's nothing to write home about at 16 minutes into the game. So they're obviously going to be looking for some kind of opportunity to start to accelerate this game. Like, what does Z10 want to do? Like, is it fighting around the next neutral objectives? Are they trying to force the soul issue as the game progresses?
Ooh, Mihai's going to be a bit careful. That's a good pillar. Yeah, I mean, to answer your question, like, they'll just fight whenever they get an opportunity to do so. But Illumina's not dumb. They're not going to run it down and just take needless fights, because what's the point? What is the purpose of that? I mean, this is a bit risky here itself. Ooh, good ulti though from Zamilek. No flash. Had to land that one or he would have been in trouble. This is it. Like, if you can find the opportunity to fight for Z10, they'll go for it. Absolutely. But without those neutral objectives being on the map, you're not going to put Illumina in a spot where they're going to fight you. Or at least you shouldn't be able to, you know? And I think this is where there's going to be a bit of a lull in the game before this next dragon spawns. You know, if you can maybe group up and get a bit of a push, but like the siege from Z10 isn't anything special, right? Like, maybe you can dive, but you're not that far ahead. You know, you're not ahead enough to just completely take it to Illumina. So you're going to have to be a little bit patient, wait for those objectives to spawn.
And I think Illumina are very happy with this. Like, they had the scaling in the side lane. I think eventually Camille's going to just monster that matchup. It'll be very difficult for Mumus to deal with that in the side lane as the game progresses, which is going to allow them to create immense amount of side lane pressure. I say that, though, that isn't engaged. That is a potential dive. You just talked about it. They have a big mid lane minion wave stacked, and the rest of Illumina are not in position to protect this. A lot of damage going down onto the tier 1. You can see Isaac pops out the shockwave. In goes Charm, but he just dies. Might able to flush away. That is going to be the unbreakable to allow the exit. It was a lot sacrificed for a little bit of HP on that mid lane tower. It's just about whether Illumina can now protect that.
Yeah, you do have the wave play coming through from the Orianna, but I don't think anything happening here. Z10 is going to bring that one down. No defense there. And because Mumus was able to leave quite early and get to the top side, he might even be able to defend this tower. But look at the levels. Ooh, he just leveled up to 12, but he's not actually that far ahead anymore of LeQ. He's just been able to sit in top side and get all that free farm by himself.
I mean, you mentioned it, taking those 2 towers in the, you can see there, he's the highest level in the game right now with the most experience, but you mentioned it, that the 2 towers, it's often nice, but somehow then Renekton starts to lose that laning phase, lose that lane dominance that he had, and because we haven't been able to translate that into frequent skirmishes and frequent engages that I think, you know, Z10 would be hopefully looking for. Like, I always like to see people drop that Ashe ultimate and try and use it as much as possible. I've only seen it used once this game so far. Chris now face checks Rotus here, but he will get away. But in the meantime, you mentioned, like, Camille's now had time to get gold, time to get experience, and is now starting to bully Mumus in that side lane matchup.
It's the pain of playing Renekton, man. He's great in the lane phase, but you've really got to translate that and accelerate it. And Z10 just hasn't been able to do that. If they lose this dragon as well, they're going to contest for it, but it's gone.
As the arrow that comes out, there's no cleanse right now, and I think they're going to have to sack Zamilek, which they do. Z10 will pick off 1 kill, but there is nothing to really get for it. Like, unless they hard push for this tier 2 bot, or maybe try and push down that tier 2 mid, there's nothing to really pick up for that single kill, and that is a second Drake picked up. Charm now, though, a little bit overzealous, over-engaged, doesn't have that control in his own jungle. And I don't think he's going to escape this one either. Tries to get away with the ultimate. I say that. No, he's just dead, right? Yeah.
Almost. You made us hold our breath a little bit there. And until that death, honestly, and, you know, this tower going down as well, I'd say that was pretty good for Illumina. The fact that they're able to take the second dragon, it means that Soul's just not going to be a thing for quite a while now for Z10. Losing 1 player for that isn't a bad price to pay. Mumus, though.
Oh, he got baited. Then no one backed, mate. No one backed, and that'll be Mike picking up the kill. And Zamalek forced to flush as well. He's only just had that comeback off cooldown. That was a complete bait. I don't know if it was an intentional bait by Mumus, but the rest of his team hadn't backed.
Oh, that was a bit tragic, that one right there. Actually had to use his TP as well to cover that bot side to stop that play from happening. So now you've lost Orianna's TP out of that too. Yeah, I mean, I did say that Illumina wouldn't fight Z10 just for no reason. Okay, maybe a little bit right there. A bit greedy, but hey, you know, you miss 100% shots you don't take. Sometimes when you shoot, it goes in the back of your own net, and that kind of happened this time round as, yeah, Mumus looks like he's out of position. But
no one expects the Z10 Inquisition. They're just there. They're all hiding in the brush. I think that must have been calculated. They were all hiding in the brush, right?
Yeah, I think they expected that, to be honest. That's cool, though. Honestly, there's a lesson to learn there from solo queue. If you've got a teammate that's running it down, just stack in a bush next to him. Bam. Bait the enemy team to come in. Sorted.
Z10 now trying to use this platform to go for the Baron. They have to use it to do something, really. You know, they've been gifted a couple of these engage opportunities and gifted a couple of these things to kind of go in their favor, but they still need to kind of take the game out of Illumina's hands, and they haven't quite found an opportunity. As Chris overextending a little bit into Voltus, he feels confident to do so with Charm on the sidelines. Mike has just showed himself, and Voltus will be able to get away. There's the Heartbreaker, though, and you can see now coming in, trying to find that kill. It will be LeCue that uses that Hextech ultimatum to find the first engage, and now they're on to Might. Over the wall here, but hook shot's there. LeCue is going in. That will be the stun. A long-range one that buys a bit of time as he gets barreled back. And the shockwave instantly blows up Aurelia, and Might will go straight back to the fountain. Have Illumina found the angle for the Baron?
I think they just may well have done. I'm not sure there's too much that Z10 can do about this one. That was a perfect catch from Illumina. Voltus was just a little bit too far forward. Obviously, you have the strength, you have the power of Z10. You're in control of the game, so therefore you move up and you try and make the play, but oof, you just get caught out of position. And Illumina, they recognized it. Not going to keep going for that Baron, though. Crucially, Z10 are able to stop that one from going down, so it's just a bit of licking of the wounds, a reminder of your mortality. And yeah, it's just, honestly, so Renekton's bot side doesn't have TP. You know, and Illumina know this. I think it's a bit of a weird kind of lane assignment for that, to just, you know, all be playing around Baron and trying to get rid of vision when you've got a Renekton bot. But hey, you can see in the picture-in-picture though, Z10 have just decided to go for the Baron again. We're going to do another Baron dance, and also see what happened. Okay, I'm watching the pit, mate. I'm watching the pit. It's a great shockwave, but it's all kicking off here.
But we've got another fight. That's another good shockwave. It's another good one, but can Illumina capitalize right now? Chris, he'll get the reset, he'll get the heal. Mumus in the front line, they're kiting back. We talked about that front-to-back potential, the ability to disengage. LeCue's looking for it, will get stunned away, but there's the Hextech ultimatum straight onto Might. Gets barreled out of it. And Z10 again with the tail between their legs will just walk away from this 1-for-1 overall.
Oof, mate, it's all kicking off now, isn't it? 40 seconds until the dragon spawns as well. Everyone will be a 5-man unit strong for that. But I honestly, I'm thinking who's more reliant on their ultis when it comes to this dragon fight, if both teams want to contest that. I would say in general, perhaps Illumina are a bit more ulti reliant, but it's not necessarily ulti reliant, it's more like shockwave reliant. And that shockwave is going to come back up. That has a pretty low cooldown. Major itemization means you get a decent amount of ability haste, so you don't have to worry too much and wait too long until you can use your ultimate again. That will be up, but there'll be a few that aren't quite up here for Z10. Renekton ulti, Gragas ulti, Aurelia as well. Are Illumina going to try and contest this one, or are they just going to let it go? It looks as though they're going to be okay to just let this one slide.
It's the second dragon for Z10. They're not bothered. You know, Illumina probably take the the opinion that actually, at the end of the day, they feel that they scale better. They feel that they can play these team fights out better as the game progresses. They're just going to give that one over. Again, you said reliant on a couple of ultimates. They think without the I think without the Hextech ultimatum especially, they don't feel comfortable going straight up in the team fight right now. Because that's been a good way to isolate someone and take them down from LeQ.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, the thing with if all you've really got is your shockwave, you're waiting for them to walk into you, right? And that's always a little bit unreliable when you're waiting for the opponent to do something rather than you being the one who's forcing it upon the enemies. And the benefit though for Illuminar not contesting that dragon is they were able to get vision down in the top side of the jungle, get that first tower as well in top lane. So now you know that lane is going to be a little bit more pushing towards Z10 just a tad. And that gives Illuminar some more breathing room before they have to keep catching this top wave. If you've been looking at the map and like looking at lane assignments this game, you've seen like a lot of it has basically been someone's just sitting top because it's constantly pushing really far in since Z10 were able to take both of those towers.
More dancing around the Baron as we'd expect. And actually, you brought up a point that I really want to expand on a little here. Maybe just got to be a bit careful about where Chris is right now. But you brought up a point that I do want to think about expanding on, which is that kind of that thought process around the how Z10 want to play their fights. You remember we talked about it right at the start of the game. We said, well, Z10, all they do is go in. They don't really have another angle to play. And so if they try and play front to back, I think they lose. So I feel like for Illuminar, they're okay with just letting Z10 look for the engage. As long as they don't get caught out by an Ash Arrow or it's not an engage where you're isolating someone. If it's a straight up 5v5 engage, Illuminar are like, well, we've got Orianna, Tristana. Like, front to back is our bread and butter. We don't care about it. And also, you know, and this is why I think Z10 are forcing these Barons, because they know that they need Illuminar to face check them. Otherwise, they just really don't win these fights.
Yep, but Illuminar now. Camille's just pushing bot side. Is she going to TP in or is she going to stay for bot? Baron's on half health. The clock's ticking. Watch that shockwave. Watch that ball.
Yeah, well, they've used the Ash Arrow, so that's that engage out the window. You can see Z10 in split minds about how they want to approach this. They're just letting Orianna get that chip work in. It's the engage straight through onto Isik, who has the shockwave on himself, but it's good. It's good for the time being. It's bought a lot of time and a lot of health bars that are low, and Mihai is completely out of position in the meantime. We've got a split push going on. LeQ has not made his way over. They feel it. They're feeling themselves in the 3v5. Chris has bought a bit of time here. No one dealing with Zamalek. This is the time. Jumps in. First reset. Second reset. Straight on top. Flushes away from Mummies. It's a double kill for Chris. And Mummies desperately trying to bite away at that Tristana, but it doesn't matter because the damage is done. It is a 4 versus 5. There is an absolute gargantuan minion wave with Camille. Second Nexus tower. Oh my god, the teleport coming through. Can they stop it coming through? I don't know if they can. That teleport will get there for Mummies. It was so close for LeQ. Going for the backdoor attempt. Great play from Illuminar overall, and Z10 will be feeling that one for some time.
What? What is going on? What is happening? That is the most ridiculous Baron dance I've seen in a long time. I don't even think it's over. No, it's not. Illuminar went for Izuki as well.
Oh, he doesn't have the explosive cast to knock LeQ out of the Hextech ultimatum either, and LeQ will happily take that one.
Oh, okay.
Is that Baron again? Are we straight
it's
to Baron
it's
again?
Got to be. I mean, it's got to be. There's got to be. The jungler's dead at this point. You just concede it. I mean, okay. So, yeah, right. Z10 deciding to turn that one, I think, was a little bit of a questionable call. I'm not really on board with that one, especially after you lost your Ash Arrow. You had Illuminar having to walk into you, and that's fine. Like, they were struggling to do that. You didn't have to turn. Baron was really low anyway. And it was 45.
Yeah.
Maybe
I feel like you just force it, right? Exactly. I feel like maybe you flip it or take it. But yeah, now you've lost an inhibitor. You've lost a 4 versus 5. We said, like, Z10 need this to happen, right? I think the only way that they get a good engage now is by sitting on objective and forcing Illuminar to face check them. And Illuminar are super happy with being engaged on because they have the better front to back. They have Orianna, they have Tristana, and they have the bodies in the front like Charm at this point, who is going to soak the damage with his ultimate. So they are super okay with playing front to back because they have enough distraction on the front line to make that work. And I think Z10, you called it right at the start of the game, Foxy. They needed to accelerate off that top lane. Like they invested resources into Mummies, but they didn't. They didn't make it happen. Now that is the Ash Arrow coming through with Zamalek side steps away. I mean, they are desperate. You can see that Z10 feel desperate. They need the engages. And at this point, Illuminar are just very happy to let LeQ do that side lane. We've talked about the fact that Mummies can't match him in the side lane anymore, and I think Z10 know it as well.
I think, honestly, maybe it's even worth just sending Irelia into Camille. I thought that might have been like a better lane assignment once you get out of lane phase, but at this point, I just don't think there's anything you can do about it. Illumina just have such good control on the map. They know how to play the map. They know what they want to do. They know their win con. And to be honest, I think this is a big difference when it comes to E-Masters, when you see teams coming out of the major ERLs, you know, like Poland and the Dark region and like the LFL, these kind of leagues compared to some of the smaller leagues like the Balkans. We saw it with the North Assist earlier as well from the Greek league. You can get early leads, but don't know how to close. But thinking about closing it.
Zamalek's in stasis right now. He'll have to bounce out. It was a good flank. They did trade 1-for-1 overall. Now he's trying to kite backwards. That is a lot of the engaged threat now gone from Z10 now. And you can see. Yeah, Camille. Oh my God! Look at the minion height. She's just going to get it. It's legit a 2-centimeter backdoor. LeCue teleported about 10 meters on the map, and he gets the win for Illumina. I think it was a foregone conclusion realistically at this point anyway, but it was a flashy way to end the game.
Wow. Yeah, things happened that game, man. Things happened. I'm not really sure how else to describe it. I'm sure we'll have some time to break it down after the break, but for Illumina's first showing, got a little bit behind early, but the way they played the game out, honestly, from being from behind, hey, they pull out the dub, and that's what matters at the end of the day.
I think the Ultra Liga Poland will be super happy with wins in the group stage right now. Again, kind of redeem themselves from their poor spring performance, in all honesty. But can I be real with you, Foxy? From all of that I've seen today, the more minor regions, they're looking pretty good. I don't know whether it's just that the major regions not looking as strong, or whether the minor regions have literally leveled up, but I'm pretty impressed. Like, that was relatively close, you know, for like 10, 15, 20 minutes. Like, that was a relatively close game. But nonetheless, as you mentioned, after a short break, we'll be back to break down that game a little further before we head to our fifth game in the night. Fifth game. Aha. Welcome back to the Amazon European Masters. We just saw Illuminar get their first win, which they'll be very happy for the Ultra League and Poland in general, looking to have a good European Masters summer after the spring was not the most ideal for them. Look, I kind of want to take that back to the draft because it felt like, and you kind of described it perfectly, there was a win condition for Z10 that felt like it needed to be accelerated in the early game, and I feel like the right mindset was there, but it wasn't quite executed well in game.
Yeah, they had a decent enough start, I would say, with like the players they were able to make in the early game. They got first blood and then a second kill onto a Renekton, which is decent. You want to have that early play, you want to have that going down, and that's all beautiful stuff. But then from there, they weren't really able to translate it. This is the play that happened when Z10 decide to put the Herald down top side. They get the first tower top. They then get a second tower top as well. And to be honest, if you just trade that just for that bot tower, that's fine. That's cool. You know, you're happy. All chilling, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. But yeah, Z10 decided to actually contest the bot side, which isn't good. They were outnumbered and they fell for it. And then just honestly, some lane assignment blunders, I would say, and just positioning around the map, a bit disrespectful, not really giving the right kind of pause to Illuminar for how much they could just catch you out of position if they wanted to. And in the end, decent early, but not good enough macro to bring it home.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned it in the game. It really felt like you had to play heavily around Mummas here because you invested so many resources into him and just weren't able to translate that Renekton into anything useful. And at the end, Z10 were in desperation mode. They were forcing these objectives that even though they may not have been strong enough to go for them, this was a bit of an awkward one as well.
It's yeah, like Illuminar are just so good if you're running into them, you know, and so Z10 just ran into them a lot and it just didn't really work out very well. This was kind of the beginning of the end, honestly, where they had that play. Maybe they could go for that Baron and trade it away for what's happening on the minimap. As you can see, Camille's not even here for Illuminar. Camille is pushing bot side. She gets all the way down to the last Nexus tower. Almost ends the entire game just randomly off of this play. Yeah, it was just honestly a huge credit though to the way that Illuminar played the map. I thought they were really, really smart. I really just liked the way they knew where to go, they knew what they wanted to do, and in the end, it brought them the victory.
You can see that it was a relatively healthy gold lead heading into 20 minutes there, but it collapsed. And Illuminar from 25 minutes onwards kind of activated. And we talked a little bit about how this comp wanted to play into Z10. Illuminar were very happy with Z10 trying to force the engage because they had a better disengage, they had a better back to front style comp, and Z10 had to force the issues. They had to ask the questions, and Illuminar always had the answers. And I just don't think they gave themselves a big enough platform to do what you just saw in the replay. Randomly start Baron and hope that, you know, you can win even in a 5v5, if that was actually a 5v5. But regardless, it's a great start for the Ultra League. I actually think it was a good performance of the EBL in general. A lot of our minor regions have been performing really well this European Masters. I think we've got really stacked groups across the board. But we are going to go into another really intense matchup. After the break, we'll have Macho versus Vodafone Giants. Don't go anywhere.